Greetings and salutations, this is Jason Silverain, and today I'm immensely pleased to bring you Game Dev Tycoon. Now this is not a new game by any means, it was released August 2013 by Greenheart Games. It's available on Steam for $6.99 and boasts the full package of Steam achievements, Steam cards, a well-integrated Steam workshop and Steam cloud saves. However, despite its age, it's still undergoing quite a few updates here and there. In March 2018 it received update 1.6, which sort of brought the game up to scratch with the later released mobile version, so there was a few UI tweaks here and there, but the main thing it added was pirate mode, which is a reference to what the developers first did when the game released. When the game was initially released, they placed an altered version of the game on several sites known for piracy. And this version of the game was sort of a pushback and a demonstration of how piracy harms small developers. Because the game you start as a sort of garage developer. You know, you're programming games on your PC in your garage or in your bedroom. What would happen is every time you release the game, you would lose a certain percent of your sales and income to piracy. Essentially, much like real life. It doesn't really harm you when you're very large, like EA, but for small companies like these guys, it's basically like you're bleeding money. And it was practically impossible to actually progress that far into the game, but a lot of people enjoyed the mechanics so much that it worked well as a demo, and quite a lot of people said, oh, I pirated the game initially. I then bought the full version because I sort of got your point once I realised that the piracy events were actually just in pirated versions. Now, pirate mode, which has been recently put in, is a throwback to that. It's altered, it's very similar, but it's now a little more possible to proceed. It just adds a new level of difficulty to the game. So that's quite interesting. So far, Greenheart Games haven't actually released anything else, but they're working on a Tavern Keeper simulator right now, which I am really looking forward to, because if it's as good as this, it's going to be amazing. So far, there have been quite a lot of attempts at creating another Game Dev Tycoon by various other companies, their own game development simulators, but all of them have fallen short. A lot of them are just plain awful and just cash grabs, in all honesty. So this is still the best one out there. Now, I am going to be going in the game in just a moment, but there's a few things I just want to show you. As you see, you've got the basic options. You've got a very clear settings menu. Not much to it, but you don't really need much. See, there's absolutely no resolution options there. It starts windowed, and you can just pull the window however you want, and it just resizes. Going back again, all your mods which you have activated are listed here. You can also publish mods and do things very easy. It's all very integrated. Now I'm just going to show you a few that I advise if you want to play, if you're going to play this game. First of all, you've got to have these first two: Game Dev Tycoon Mod API and Ultimate Lib. Both of these are resource packs that are used by practically every mod on the workshop. The next one I'd advise, well, I say advise, you can't actually do anything without the other two. This one, however, is staff gain experience from games. Now, your staff will level up in the game, but so far the only thing it does is make your staff require higher wages. This means every time you make a game, your staff actually gain a small amount of experience, and their ability to either, well, in design, technology, their production speed, or their research ability, they just increase by very, very small token amounts. It can't replace training your staff, but it certainly just helps, and it does mean that your staff do very gradually improve. Now, this is one of the more common mods on the workshop, the Enhancement Mod. Now, a lot of people have done lots of these, and it can be well, rather confusing which one you should go for. This is probably the best one I've come across so far. Quite a few of them are broken, quite a few of them only add a handful of consoles, but it all comes down to personal preference. But this enhancement mod, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the author's name. This one adds 30 new platforms to the game, 63 new topics, and 116 researchers, so it gives you plenty of new things to play around with. Now, I'm not too keen on the research it adds to the game, but the platforms and the topics, very good. The platform randomizer, which is something you really do need if you've got a mod that adds platforms to the game. And this is because if Game Dev Tycoon has any one issue, it's the fact that it follows a realistic timeline of development. So consoles come and go, you know, companies rise and fall, but it's always the same. It never really changes. This changes certain things like console lifespans, the amount of sales it's getting, the market share it actually has. So it makes it a little less cut and dry about what consoles you should be supporting. I still say stick with PCs. You can't go wrong for the most part, unless you want to make casual games. Another thing that people thought a little weird is you have to research the ability to make sequels, casual games, and actually market your games. This just adds in those abilities from the start, so you don't have to research them, and those are very costly research things in the game. So this thing speeds things up a little bit. There is a problem with it, however, that occasionally there's a glitch where it will unlock all the topics as well, which that's sort of, I think that's happened in my current playthrough, but so far that's not really been a problem, and it'll actually help in this video as it'll let me go over a few topics and things like that, just show things and learn by doing. This is a bit like the experience gained from creating games, except it adds the ability to when you complete small minor contracts for other companies, like you're building them a spreadsheet or something. It's an easy way of earning a small amount of cash, but now it helps train your staff as well. And also when you're building game engines, your staff can improve. So that's my recommendation for mods to the game. The game is very good without them, but what mods are for? They're there to improve your experience. I will load anyway. So it gives you a warning, which is very nice. If the game's missing anything, it's the ability to delete your save files. For some reason, they didn't include that in the game, which does mean if you do screw up, you're putting your mods in, you really have to do a completely clean install. You have to uninstall, hunt down all the files, kill them, and then make sure you unsubscribe from the mods that were messing up your game and reinstall. It's a pain, but it's a 20 to 15 minute job at most. I just realised I said that the wrong way around. Oh well. So yes, 35 years is the recommended game. You can change it a little bit to somewhere, I think, like 32 to 42. I'll double check in just a moment. So we're going to go with Sword and Torch, named after my blog that's currently on hiatus. But to be honest, the reason behind that is I didn't really want to do much writing when I was in hospital. I just couldn't focus on it because I was being interrupted all the time. And the blog initially was just there for me to share things like my tabletop roleplay third-party rules and things I really liked. And I've not done a lot of tabletop gaming for months now, so there's not really been much for me to write about. Eventually, when I build up enough content and rules and things like that, and actually have a chance to sit down and explore some weirder games, the blog will come back and I'll enjoy writing it again. But since I'm going to be starting college very soon, I don't see myself updating the blog for a while. So yeah, you can choose your characters, looks and design. Oh, I should have gone into the options first, so you can change game length. So 42 years, 30 years. It may not sound like a lot, but it can actually really change when consoles are released and things like that. It does minor tweaks. So we go into the game. Now, one thing you can do is unlock hints from your previous save. So research you've done and you've learned things about certain consoles or like what genres are good on them. That will transfer into your next game. And then we have a save slot. Now, I wish I could delete these. It's a real pain. Now, you may realise I've got one called Greenheart Games and Ubisoft. That's actually to do with an achievement where if you name yourself after a games company. And here's an example of the randomizer. Yeah, I'll just keep with the defaults. I don't like randomizing console audiences, it really messes me up. So first thing we do is develop a new game. And a little tip for newbie players. It might be worth focusing on a particular set of genres to begin with, because you level up certain elements and each genre and type of game requires different elements to be best. So if you can get synergizing games like simulations and strategy games, I believe, then you will keep making very good games. However, the holy grail of all topics, the ones you can tell that are official are the ones with little thumbnails. All the ones without are the added ones. Is actually hunting. Hunting everybody loves. It makes a great game no matter what you're doing, apart from a strategy. Don't make a strategy. So let's make our first game a hunting game. Now, let's make the classic. Really should be making this on the NES, but it's not even released yet. And you know, make it a simulation game, and we'll pick our platform. And then your starting platforms are traditionally the G64 and the PC, but because I've got this pack that adds in a lot more historical consoles, which are not quite named correctly, but that's to avoid lawsuits and copyright. But yes, I'm going to go for PC. As you can see, the genres match up very nicely. And I'm going to make it text-based, which may sound strange, but in this game, every time you release a game, it's rated against your previous one. So there's actually been all sorts of tactics, like purposely leaving bugs in your early games. So you reduce your own rating, and thus it makes it easier to improve, because if you peak too soon, like you make a really, really good game, it makes it very hard to make any real progression beyond that. I mean, the game's got a lot of depth to it. I mean, the wiki is very good and goes into a lot more detail. I am no expert by any means. I'm still relatively a newbie. I'm going to completely confess that. Now, as you can see, gameplay is the most important thing about a simulation. The engine's also important, and stories and quests, not so much. And usually you'll want 100% in one thing, 60 to 80 in another, and somewhere either between 20 to 40 or under 50 in another, in the last. And you have two ratings, which are design and technology. Now, I recommend strategies and simulations in the early game because it gives you more technology-focused games, and technology actually seems to get you research points a lot more likely anyway than design. And that means you can research things a lot faster, like improving things for like your game engine or additional topics, because, you know, you won't have a bug like me where you've got all the topics unlocked. That, again, that shouldn't have happened, but it makes this example very easy to show. Now, there's pretty much 3 development stages, and all of which are controlled by these sliders. It's a little shame it doesn't give you a percentage underneath, but you know, you can pretty much make good guesstimations. And you get this other thing over here where you get features you can add and remove from your game. Now, I still haven't quite figured this out yet, but Simple enough. Just use the features to bolster the elements you need in your game, because each of these features costs you extra money to implement. So there's no sense putting features in that you don't need. So I've got 2 bugs, just have to wait to debug my code. And I've got a reasonably above average design and technology game here. And this is where you sort of level up all your abilities in an area. And as these go up, it unlocks research options. And this is the long and short of the game, really. And there's the stat increases from releasing a game. Again, this really is hardly anything. It won't really make much of a difference until I'm starting up to like 400. Every time I get an extra like 50 or 100, it helps. So it doesn't replace training, but it certainly means you don't have to train as often in the later game. Now let's start churning out another game. So what, I just made a simulation? I believe Dungeon's a very good simulation. I mean, the best playthrough I ever had. I had Dungeon, Fantasy and Medieval, and I just kept making RPGs. Just swapping between those genres. Oh, not genres, those themes. Sorry, because trying to figure out the right word there. So let's go with Dungeon. We'll make another simulation. You knew I had to call it this. And I'll keep it text-based for now, just to save some money. Oh, I saw some 10s there. I'm not expecting any more than a 6, really, for your very first game. You're joking. That's incredibly good for my very first game release. Now, I can just keep all these the same because I've already set it up for simulation games. See, this is another thing it does as well, is if you keep making the same type of game, it means you don't have to keep fiddling with the sliders. But as the game progresses, you get the ability to make games for multiple consoles. You get the ability for to get large teams and make medium-sized games. 46 in the charts, not really amazing. Well, we have 30 fans, that's very nice. And this is Game Dev Tycoon in a nutshell. That's still a bit of a tongue twister, which is why this is probably take 30 now. But I hope you've enjoyed this little glance at it. If it interests you, I suggest picking it up. It's a very laid-back game. It's kind of strangely Moorish. It just seems very basic, I know, but it's good fun.